Hello and a very warm welcome to this special edition of Middle East Matters. This week we're focusing entirely on Israel's general elections due to take place on March 17th. Our correspondents there show us how united they stand. For the first time, Arab-Israeli parties have come together, forming a new power bloc. Ultra-orthodox women break down barriers and run for office, trying to change the perceived place of women in politics. And affordable housing takes over as a leading campaign issue, as many can't afford a suitable home. But first, with less than a week to go before voting stations open, opinion polls put the Likud party of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu neck and neck with the centre-left opposition Zionist Union. Should the two main parties tie, the real winner will be the party that can form the largest coalition. Charlotte Hawkins looks at the options.
It looks set to be a tight race. He called for early elections, and current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is determined to hold on to his position, portraying himself as a unifier of the country.
I feel that I am an emissary of all Israel's citizens, even those who do not agree with me, of the entire Jewish people. I feel deep and sincere concern about the security of all Israel's citizens and the fate of the country and of our people.
Those comments as he left for Washington to persuade the US Congress against a nuclear deal with Iran. His critical speech was controversial and seized upon by Likud's main challenger, the Zionist Union.
But the Zionist Union has a different approach. We will protect Israel against a nuclear Iran by working together with our allies and with our best friend, the United States of America, and not against it.
Isaac Herzog and Tzipi Livni are leading a group of centre-left parties formed to oust Netanyahu and his Likud party. An anti-Netanyahu rally at the weekend showed the Zionist Union has plenty of support. Predicted 23 seats each in the Knesset, the rivals are neck and neck in the polls. But in Israel, it's alliances that matter most. The leading parties will have to try and form coalitions, and it's here that Likud is better placed, able to count on the support of the Jewish Home Party, as well as the likely backing of other right-wing parties. Whereas on the left, the Zionist Union is allied only with the Meretz socialists. Should Likud and the Zionist Union opt to form a grand coalition, it will be the joint list of Israeli Arab parties that become the leading opposition, a first in Israeli history.
Well, that joint list of Israeli Arab parties is one of the first in these elections. The coalition which united once fractious groups, forcing the older mainstream politicians to pay attention to the country's large Arab minority like never before. Gallagher Fenwick reports.
For the first time in their history, Israel's Arab parties have formed a joint list, and they are dreaming of a new era.
We could be at the helm of the opposition for the first time. Every foreign dignitary who visits has to meet with the opposition leader. This means we'll openly address the issue of the black hole in Israeli democracy with them. In other words, racism against Arabs.
Many of those in attendance at this rally in a village in northern Israel say that the sight of this alliance between communists, nationalists, and members of the Islamic Party fills them with pride.
We used to fight courteously among ourselves, but now this unity strengthens us. It doesn't erase our differences. On the contrary, it allows us to acknowledge them and use them.
The demands of this marginalized constituency are mainly economic, but also political.
Before anything else, we want our economical situation to improve. We want work. All the youths you see here are unemployed, and of course, we want an end to the occupation.
Arab citizens represent 20% of Israel's population. Several hundreds of thousands of them are old enough to vote, but their participation has declined in recent elections. Most of these first-time voters tell us they're looking forward to casting their ballots.
By participating in the elections and by having people who represent us at the Knesset, we can further the rights of Arabs.
The potential is there, according to this analyst, for Israeli Arabs to no longer be simple bystanders, but to exert real influence on the country they live in.
We compare our situation also to the Jewish minority in the US. 2% of the Americans are Jewish Americans, but they, through AIPAC and through different ways, they are very powerful community. We, as the Palestinians in Israel, we are about 20% of the population. We are Palestinians. We are citizens of the State of Israel. We are voters here, and we can have impact on the political system in Israel.
In a recent poll conducted in the Arab sector, 60% of respondents said they want the joint list to be part of the ruling coalition. That would be another historic first for Arab parties in Israel.
New political alliances and new issues too. Since throngs of people took to the streets of Tel Aviv a couple of years ago to demand social justice, the political agenda has been changing. Topping to-do lists now, housing, as the average Israeli finds it hard to afford a suitable home.
Taking centre stage during the electoral campaign, Israel's housing crisis will be on the minds of many Israelis as they head to the polls. This mother of two works as a project manager and considers herself to be middle class.
This is the bedroom.
But this small apartment in a rundown building on the outskirts of Tel Aviv is all she can afford to rent.
My sister invites me all the time. She lives outside of Tel Aviv in a bigger, house, so we're invited. I can't invite her. I'm ashamed. I'm telling you the truth. I'm ashamed to invite friends. I'm ashamed to invite even my sisters with their families.
Israel's state comptroller recently released a scathing report on housing. Real estate prices here, on average, have gone up 55% between 2008 and 2013. Tel Aviv University hosts the Affordable Housing Center. Its director says colonizing Palestinian territories will not solve the problem, and the government needs to rein in the forces of the free market.
They need to regulate, they need to subsidize, they need to create incentives, they need to provide financing. They need to give land for cheap in Israel, not in the territories, like they do, in order to make the housing market affordable.
Back in 2011, Stav Shafir led Israel's biggest ever protest for social justice, and in particular a fairer housing system. Today, she and others are campaigning for the centre-left camp. They say they're still fighting the same battle.
Yeah, 3 years ago when we came here to protest against the housing crisis and against the policy of Netanyahu, we demanded Netanyahu to change his policy. Today, we want to replace Netanyahu.
While we were worrying about security, basically, we can't afford to live in an apartment, and that's another form of security.
A stone's throw from the malls and corporate towers of Tel Aviv lies this shantytown where many live in tents.
We are a microcosm of what is happening in the country. I've been here 3.5 years and I'm begging for help.
As the country's economy continues to grow, so does the divide between its wealthy and its poor.
Now, another new contender in these elections, ultra-orthodox women who have, for the first time ever, put their names forward. An unprecedented move in a community that sees women taking such positions as immodest. Our correspondent spent a day with one of the candidates, finding out why she chose to push for change.
My name is Gila Yashar. I'm a member of the Ultra-Orthodox Women's Party and we want to be elected to Parliament.
A dozen ultra-Orthodox women candidates are one of the biggest surprises of the campaign leading up to Israel's legislative elections. It's the very first time in the country's history that women like Gila Yashar go into politics.
It's about the time. We are not living 100 years ago in Persia. We are now in Medinat Israel, and we should change the Knesset, not only men, excuse me.
Wherever she goes, Gila is always trying to win votes including when she's shopping in the heart of one of Jerusalem's ultra-religious neighborhoods.
I believe that religious women should have the same rights as secular women.
By following Gila around, we get a rare glimpse into what she describes as a closed and male-dominated community.
You should wear pants, not a skirt, if you want to survive in this world.
Gila says that religious male politicians rarely know about the issues that matter to the women around them. She wants to give them a voice.
Religious women in parliament? What are you talking about? That's not fit for them.
She says the same thing. You listen that the wife job is to be at home, raising the kids and taking care of the house and her husband, and she shouldn't be in the Knesset, in the government.
After her divorce, Gila won custody of 3 of her 7 children, including a special needs boy. He attends a religious school where she regularly checks up on him and never misses an opportunity to spread her message.
Respect them, give them their rights, give them wherever they need, because woman is equal to the man.
Back at home, the candidate tells us about the incident that prompted her to go into politics. Last year, a rabbi ordered her arrest. She ended up being handcuffed to a hospital bed after she fainted. She states her only crime was failing to show up at a divorce hearing at a rabbinical court.
I don't know how people will accept it, especially in the Orthodox community, but I'm trying to do my best that it will be helpful to the other women, and the women will not be afraid. No.
I don't understand. So
ultra-Orthodox women candidates might not make it into Israel's parliament this time, but they have already set the wheels of change in motion within their community.
Well, that brings us to the end of this special edition of Middle East Matters. Have a great week, and we'll see you again next time.